Sensationally silver, because you are.
Hi, I'm Robin Norwood, author of the international bestseller, Women Who Love Too Much. And I'm inviting you to join me in conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age, people who demonstrate that sensationally silver is truly a state of mind. This mindset encompasses well-deserved pride in who and what we are today, rich in years and experience, in strength and hope and wisdom and fortitude and dignity. Come celebrate with us, because we all are truly sensationally silver. Welcome, everybody, to Sensationally Silver, a State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age. My guest today is extremely extraordinary. She's described by a mutual friend of ours as unsinkable. Judi just keeps going in the most remarkable ways. Her name is Judi Weisbart. Welcome, Judi.
Thank you, Robin. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. I'm so glad to have you as my guest. So I'm going to start out with our first question. We always ask this first question. Judi, how old are you?
Well, as of last week, I am actually 73 years old.
Okay, great. Happy birthday.
Thank
And
you.
how old do you feel?
I've always felt about 40 years old. And the reason for that is that even when I was young, I always felt very centered and wise. And not that I felt old, because I obviously don't think 40 is old, even less now that my kids are over that. But I always felt that I could be in my power at 40. I could be a woman that actually was listened to. And 40 just seems like the right age for me. So that's how old I am.
That makes sense to me, and it's a beautiful answer. Just, yeah, it's a very full age, isn't it? Full of wisdom, as you said, and full of power. Not young and naive anymore, and just kind of
Still able to get up and down the stairs.
yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay. So, have you ever lied about your age, Judi?
No, never. I've
Never.
never quite understood the whole age thing. I still don't understand it. I find it phenomenal. I have always chosen older women in my life to be my mentors. So from when I can remember as a young child, I chose a woman that I called Grandma Leap, and she was a friend's actually sister-in-law, but we called her Grandma Leap because she was of the age of a grandma. And I literally would go and see her every week just because I found being with an elder so fascinating. So for me, it was never something I didn't want to be. So there was no reason to lie about it.
Yeah, I love that answer too. I have a friend, he's a veterinarian, and every week he would go have dinner with a woman who was in her 80s. And he loved spending time with her, just being in her presence. She had so much wisdom. So, what's the best thing about being the age you are now, Judi?
I don't care about what others think of me. I no longer feel the need to be um, what the world wants. I can be what I want. And I think the other thing about age is you actually get comfortable with the personality you came with. I laughed too loud. My mother always said, I was too big for myself. And now I am big, and that's my personality. And I always have been. And it wasn't a put on, and it's who I am. And just being in my nature is really comforting, because I think we try so often as younger people to fit into the mold. And I no longer have a mold to fit into.
So, that need that's certainly so strong, like in the teen years when probably we look the best we're going to ever look, that need to get others' approval, to be perfect, all that, it starts fading with age, doesn't it? The
Yeah,
older we get. I mean, it also stops being as much of an option, but the
true.
pressure's gone. Yeah, yeah. We just get so much more self-accepting, which is so comfortable.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
what's the most challenging thing for you about being a person of age?
it is the physical for me. I'm very blessed with great family. I'm very blessed with an amazing amount of friends, but I've always had physical issues that have come and gone. And I find walking more difficult. I mean, I still do exercise and I go for physical therapy twice a week and I do everything to keep it going. But my legs are a problem, and that makes my movement a problem, and that makes going on an airplane a problem. It's things that take away the spontaneous behavior I always had. And now I have to think of how I'm going to get there, where I'm going to walk to. It's just more consciously realizing that for me, my body is not the easiest thing to walk around in this lifetime now. So.
And that's true for most of us. By the time we get some years on us, we've got some, I don't want to go as far as saying disabilities, but often that's the case, but at least some some half halts. That's what we call it in horses. You just come to a little bit of a stop, not a full stop. So with that, how do you cope? Because if you don't mind, talk to us just a little bit about the condition that you've had for so long. I know it's a painful one. And how do you handle that on a daily basis and do all these amazing things that you do, Judi?
So I actually started in life with a lot of physical issues. So I've actually learned how to deal with them over time. So as a child, I had like extremely bad measles, which no kids have anymore, but that kind of bothered my eyesight. I had gangrene appendix and ovarian tumors and ectopic pregnancies, and I was diagnosed with lupus, and I could go on and on and on and on. So I've always dealt with my body as the thing I have to cope with. I find that so many people come to this earth to have to deal with emotional or mental issues and illness, that have to deal with relationship issues or financial issues that are beyond their idea of how to deal with it. And for me, it's been my physical. And now I do have a genetic disease called lipedema, which it seems 11% of women on the planet have. And it's a ongoing disease that makes your legs from your waist down extremely heavy, and they're abnormal fat cells, and they're painful, and it's difficult. And so I just do everything that they know what to do for it. So I do lymph massages, which is kind of how we met. I do a lot of physical therapy in pools. I swim in pools, and I just do the best I can. Honestly, I think we all have to cope with different things, and it's not what happens to us ever. It's how we deal with what happens to us. So I just deal with it as a part of what I have to think of to make my day full. So I'm not going to go for a hike. Other people are going for hikes. I will meet you for coffee. I'm not going to go for a long walk between the place we're going to meet and the place we have to go. I'll meet you at the place we have to go. I just choose to see it as the way I live my life. I never think of it as a disability, except with that disability sign on my car. I'm very grateful. Then I kind of see it. But yeah, I just don't, I don't see life as ever having been easy. Easy isn't what life is about. It's dealing with the things that come into your life in a way that gives you wisdom, and that hopefully above everything else gives you grace. Because having grace through the difficulties makes you someone that others want to hang with, and also someone that you feel is who you really are. Because I think a problem for a lot of people, especially with physical limitations, is they think that it diminishes them, and that's not true. The you has nothing to do with the body.
So it sounds to me like, and when you correct me if I'm wrong, like you're on pretty friendly terms with your body, even though it's given you some problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen for people. I know when the body is a source of pain, it's a source of limitation. Sometimes they see it as the enemy and they fight it. And I'm not hearing that in anything you're saying, Judi. Am I getting that?
Yeah, no, I don't really. I mean, my mother had the same problem. And she lived till she was 95 and never allowed the body to be the thing that diminished her ability. I mean, at 90, she was still the bookkeeper for an art initiative in Carpinteria. So she never allowed anything to stop her from doing anything. And she just made alternative arrangements. So I had a great teacher. And no, I don't have, I think the worst thing for people is that they hold whatever it is, and allow that thing to hold them back or to be something that is their vision of themselves. I mean, I was at an event the other day and brought a woman into it because I felt it was necessary. It was not about aging. It was actually about kindness and about forgiveness and a new book that just came out. And that's what she was writing about. And I wanted to say something about a woman that I knew from the 80s, and her name was Judi Weisbart. And Judi Weisbart died in her 90s, but she was a Holocaust survivor, lived from the time that she was 12 until she was 16 in Auschwitz. Her mother was put in the camps and was put in the ovens. She was in the oven and ran out. She got typhoid. She escaped. It's an amazing story. They tore out her hair. They beat her. They starved her. And she was the most loving, giving, forgiving human I'd ever met. And I said to her one day, Judi, how can you be the most loving, forgiving, amazing human being when you went through all of that? And she said, because Judi, if you don't learn to forgive and to accept life the way it is, then you are no better than your captive. If I was not me, then Hitler won. And I think that that to me is how I live. It's not what happens to you, it's how you deal with it. And it's not the pain you go through, it's how you help others who go through pain. So your responsibility if you go through something is actually to teach through it. And that's always been my belief and the people I've hung out with. The people that surround me are those people. I don't hang out with people who say, woe is me. And if they are, they're my students as opposed to my friends and the people I hang with.
So those challenges, whatever they are, as you said, they can be in all those different areas, financial, physical, emotional, whatever. They become our experience, strength, and hope. Not only do they teach us lots about life and about enduring and about rising above, but they allow us to be, without thinking about it too much, because that kind of ruins it, but an example to other
Correct.
people who are struggling. We get to share that understanding with them, and that me too, whatever that means. I've been there too, or I understand how you feel. That is so affirming for all of us when things are difficult, and that does help us rise above it, get on with whatever. And as you're saying, Judi, not let it define us. So this is kind of a different question. I want to ask you if there have been any particular epiphanies in your life, things that have changed the way you've seen yourself, you've seen the world, whatever.
Epiphanies. I love that word. That's such a
Yeah.
great word. It's funny. I wasn't imagining this question. So the first epiphany I ever had that I remember vividly was being on the top of the hill in a little town that I lived in England. I must have been about 12 years old, maybe 13. And it was late. I'm sure it was only 5 o'clock, but it always went dark. It was the north of England, so it was very dark. And I looked into the sky and I saw, for the first time in my life, eternity. I had this overwhelming sense of what eternity meant. And it was physical and visceral and spiritual. And I can't describe it except that that was an epiphany that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I remember it to this day. And it just made me realize how big it all was and how magical and how mystical and how awe-inspiring that space above me and around me was. I think that was my first epiphany.
That's powerful. Yeah, yeah. They do change the way we inhabit ourselves and the world when we see something in a different way, in an expanded way. Thank you for that. So as you go through your life,
Mhm.
are your wishes coming true for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think we all live on a frequency. I mean, my belief system is, we can call it God, we can call it the universe, we can call it whatever we want to call it. But that frequency of love and kindness and forgiveness and all of the things that we wish for ourselves and for others, is manifest in that which we do every day. So my wishes all come true. I am given more than I could ever imagine and I gratefully accept it all. I don't care if you give me a piece of bread or $1 million. They are all equal. So anything that I vision or wish for arrives at some point, maybe not in the way I think. I'm actually in the middle of a very interesting shift in my life. As I said, I'm 73 years old. And for the past 20, 25 years, I've wanted to make a film about my artwork. So I'm an artist. I made the artwork. I've shown it in art galleries. I've shown it at universities and libraries. But I actually want to make it into a film because it's all about the world. And it's called the World Series. And I've never made it because I've never had time because I've been so busy with business and life and children and grandchildren. And I realized that I'm going to retire from the business I have at this moment that I've been doing for, God, 18 years. And I've told everyone I'm retiring. So I keep getting honored, which is rather lovely. And I'm going to make this film, but it's no longer a film because the time wasn't right before. Obviously, the universe didn't provide the opening. And so now what I've decided to do is make it into a 4 or 6-part series for like Netflix. And it's really on how each one of the 14 issues in the sculptures is an issue that we can all deal with. We made them all, whether it be war or women's issues or environment. We created it. So if we created it, we have an answer to it. We just have to be willing to step up. And so in wishing for anything, I think it's just getting into the frequency that it then manifests. And I don't mean to be woo-woo because that's not what I believe. I really believe it's the same as our physical form, that frequency brings in what we wish for, but or pray for, or see as see in our own minds that it exists. And once you see it, you can create it. And it may not be for years, but it doesn't matter because as we're doing it, we're learning something else and the other people are coming in and the reason for it is not yet necessary to bring in. So I think that wishing is the form of manifestation that takes time. Sometimes it's immediate, but yeah, everything I ever could have wished for, I've had, and I look forward to more. Not limited.
Yeah, I like that. Um, I know a little bit about what you've been doing for those. Did you say 18 years? Is
Yeah,
it 18
my
years?
company's been 18 years. I've been doing the work for nonprofits for almost, goodness, I started working nonprofits in the early 90s, so that was a long time ago.
So describe a little bit for people who are listening and viewing what that work is, because there are different things you could do for nonprofits.
Yeah.
Your particular role was a very important one to keep certain things that were very worthwhile going or funding them. So talk about that a little bit first.
So I started in the nonprofit world actually as a program director for an organization called Women's Economic Ventures, and I trained thousands of women and then became their development director over time and learned that for about 7 years. And that was really an economic development for women, which I'm very interested in worldwide. It's social justice on a very high level. And so I did that. And then I worked for organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and for arts programs. And about 18 years ago, I decided I didn't want to work for one organization. I actually wanted to start a business, which I called A Busy Woman. Busy Woman Consulting, and I consult for nonprofits such as the Food Bank and New Beginnings that deals with veterans and homelessness and arts organizations and even the fire department. And I design mission-driven events and strategic planning for fundraising. So the fundraising that one does is ask. So you go and ask someone who has money and hopefully they'll give directly. But there's a real need for events so that people understand the programs and the type of work that is done. So I create organizations to honor their programs through their fundraising, and it's so much fun, except I'm done. I've been doing it a long time. I'm done. This is my last year. I'm not going to be doing this anymore, but it was
Okay.
fun.
Yeah. You know, when you talk about those events, I remember way back when Psychology Today, the magazine first came out, there was an interview with Ralph Bersotti, and he was saying, someone asked him what would be the first thing he did if he created a community. And he said, I would arrange for the celebrations because that's what brings a community together and keeps them together is having fun, having an event that you can celebrate together. I love that. You know, they described him as a social architect. And sometimes we think the fun should come at the end, like after you've done all your work or whatever. No, it needs to come at the beginning to inspire you and keep you going, right?
Correct. And that's funny because I call myself a social artist. So my a social architect I love. My friend Tessa once said to me, you design social change as an artist designs a piece. And that's what I do. I put all the parts together in my assemblage art pieces in the same way that I put it together in community. So I've done a lot of large community events, things like Anne Frank in the World, which was an exhibit that came out of Holland, and it actually was from the Anne Frank Museum and trained children on the issues of how that whole thing started and fascism starts. And we put 10,000 school kids through the program. And the end result was phenomenal. There were kids that chose to do things that really elevated our community and our society and went on boards and did other things. I did one for the Henrietta Marie slave ship, which equally was as powerful. And we put 10,000 kids through that. And what I realize is that creating community and education in a different way affects change within so many people that we can actually move forward if we just make it something that is exciting and emotional and teaches you, because it's not just for the fun. It also has to be for why we're doing it and the education.
So this question, Judi, this next question, it's like trying to pick from a fantastic menu. What would you consider is your greatest accomplishment so far?
I think my greatest accomplishment is being a mom. Yeah. I gave birth to one child. I raised 3 stepchildren. I became a grandmother. I have a 33-year-old grandson and an 8-year-old granddaughter. And 2 months ago, I became a great grandmother.
Oh,
And I think that raising children is the most profoundly amazing experience of being human and the most difficult and painful thing of being a human. I carve stone. That's another part of what I do. And I remember carving my first piece of stone and realizing as I'm chipping away and as it's not doing what I want it to do, and as I'm not listening to it and it breaks in an area that I'm not expecting, that raising children and carving stone have the same experiences, which is if you want it to turn out well, you better have humility.
yeah. And let it teach you while you're at it, right?
That's what the humility is. It has to teach you. You
Yeah.
have to be willing to hear what you don't want to hear. In the stone, if you don't listen while you're chipping away, it will actually, sometimes you'll get your chisel caught in a fissure and it'll blow up the thing you've been working on for 100 hours. Same thing with the child. And I think you have more likelihood of damaging a child in many ways, because you don't really know that child until they come to you. So for me, at the age of 25, I ended up with a newborn who was 2 months preemie, an 11-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old, all in my home at the same time.
Oh boy. That sounds like a challenge.
It
Yeah.
was. So that, I think, is my greatest achievement, knowing how much time, energy, work, love, humility goes into that. Anyone who's been a parent will identify with that.
I think it's easier with stepchildren not to project who we are onto them, but I think it's very challenging not to look at a child we've given birth to and think, this person is like me. They're going to be just
And they're
like
not.
they're not. I remember I loved to read as a child, and I just thought my kids were going to do the same thing I did and just read, read, read. They were not students. They were smart, they were bright, but they were not students. I was a student. That was a surprise. I think that was one of the first ones. There are a lot of surprises that we get as parents, and it's nice if you don't resist, if you just pay attention and watch what's in front of you, rather than trying to get them to fit this mold that you're just so sure they're going to be happier if they fit. I mean, I was a marriage and family therapist. I saw that a lot. You know, they must want to do this. They must want, no,
No, no,
no.
no. That I think is the greatest achievement in humanity, to raise, as my husband and I said when we started raising children together, that the only two things that we expected of our children was for them to be kind and self-sufficient. That was our only job, was to love them enough that they became kind, and to educate them and give them hopefully wisdom and knowledge so that they could be self-sufficient. They should never need you past a certain age. If they need you, you failed. And I say that in a way not to judge people, but to say that in my estimation of being a parent, which by the way, I find very difficult because they don't need us. And I find it really upsetting that they never call. But when they do call, it's always good. Or a question like, how should I deal with this? I mean, we have a really wonderful relationship, but it's not symbiotic. It is actually separate human beings who relate to each other because we love each other. And that was a very difficult thing to do in a mixed family of, step and bio, and yeah. So that's what I'm most proud of.
Well, one of the great things about that is that when you do hear from them, it's because they want to talk to you, right?
Exactly.
Not out of guilt. It's not out of, oh, we're worried about you. Are you okay? It's, I want to talk to you. I want your company. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Okay, what about regrets? Any regrets?
My mother always said, and she was a wise woman, if you have regrets in life, you're not living life. Because regrets are the past. And if you live in the past of any kind, then you basically are being attached to something that no longer exists. So there's no reason to have a regret, because you did what you could do at the time. And to regret what you did only means that you're living in the past, imagining that you could change it. So no, I have no regrets whatsoever. I've lived the life I've lived. I mean, there are things that I would have done differently if I had had the information I have now. But I don't regret them. They taught me, they were there for a reason. The people that maybe I wouldn't have chosen to be around now were teachers. So no regrets. I think it's baggage. My husband says a great thing about me. He says, Judi is like everyone else, born with two suitcases in her hands. So we were all birthed with these two bags, one in the right, one in the left. And as we go through life, the problems that we have are like the rocks that we carry with us. So if we pick up a rock and put it in the bag, by the end of our life, we become very stooped over and very heavy. He says, Judi looks at it, goes, this is a rock. It's a problem. Okay, I don't need it. and throws it away. I don't put anything in those bags. And regrets are in the bag for people who hold regret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
No
beautiful,
rocks.
I like that. That's a beautiful analogy. I had someone I knew a long time ago. We were talking about mistakes, and I'm not sure I believe in mistakes. I believe in lessons that
Yes.
we gain from going through things that are challenging. And she came up with this wonderful word. She said, "Well, they're blessings, aren't they? I think I'll call them blessings." And I've been using that word ever since. Isn't that great?
That.
I know, I love it too.
It's
Blessings.
perfect.
Because mistakes makes us sound like we were idiots. We're not. Some things can't be avoided, and they shouldn't be avoided because they change us in wonderful ways, even though they're not comfortable. It's that experience, strength, and hope again. So, yeah, blessings. I like that.
I
And I
love
like that.
lessons. Okay. I'm going to
Yeah,
take that one.
yeah. All right. So, what's exciting in your life right now, Judi?
I'm going to learn how to be a filmmaker.
Mm,
I'm very excited. I really am. I realize that with Netflix and with all the things on television that are 4 and 6 parts, that this vision that I have for this storyline about my sculptures and about being an artist are all attached to people who are already doing the work in the world. So, for example, the one on animals, the sculpture around the destruction of our planet's animals and what that means, I'm hopefully going to be able to interview Jane Goodall and really have a long conversation with her about how she became so interested in animals and what is now available to us, but especially to children, to change that paradigm, to shift what's going on for the destruction of our planet. And she has some amazing knowledge and wisdom and started a thing called Roots and Shoots. And that's to get kids really involved in helping animals and making it so that we actually keep many of our animals alive on this planet. So I'm feeling as if that is the most exciting part of my vision for the future is 1, writing it, 2, learning how to do it, finding the people. And I almost don't, it kind of the wish was a part of this conversation. I don't think that you actually find the people, they end up finding you. If I'm meant to make this work, it's not for me. I mean, I'm happy to do the work. I'm always happy to do the work. But it's not for my edifice or for my becoming bigger in my world. It's for me doing something for the planet that actually gets people inspired to do something for the planet. Then what I'm here for has meaning. So at this point in my life, that's my most exciting and most thrilling, is that I get to learn and I get to be with people that are fascinating and I get to create. And for me, I think all of life is just being a creative, whatever that means.
whatever it means. We
Mhm.
we are we come in wanting different things, thank goodness, because there are a lot of different roles that need to be played in life. But we're built for what we're meant to do. We have the curiosity or the skills or whatever to be developed to give our gift. And I always think that's such a tremendous blessing when we get to give our gift. We're not going in some other direction that doesn't fit for us. And it sounds like the way you raised your children made that so possible that they could choose to follow their own path. And yeah, what a gift that is. So, my last question, Judi. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to talk with you today. My last question has to do with what you would say to people of age who may see you, hear you on this podcast. You have a message for us?
Yeah, I'm going to give you my husband's theory. My husband is 16 years older than me. And when I ask him how he stays so young and so vibrant and why we have the life we have, he always says the only thing you're responsible for as you age is to remember every day to bring joy to yourself and others. That's it. Just bring joy. It can be going out for a cup of coffee. It can be dancing. It can be doing art. It can be watching TV. I don't care what brings you joy, but whatever brings you joy, that's the vibrational level that aging needs. And that when you don't think every day that that is the same as taking your medication and your food and your exercise, but the joy is the whole difference between having a healthy, happy aging and not. So everybody be joyful.
Yes, that's beautiful. And I also think that's our gift to the world. When we
Absolutely.
are happy, we make the world a happier place. What a gift for everybody.
Yep.
Judy, thank you so much for being my guest today. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a joy. I really had a good time.
I did too. And thank all of you. Thanks to all of you for being here and enjoying Judy and hopefully learning wonderful things from her. She's an amazing, amazing woman. Bye for now. Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, is sponsored by Sensationally Silver, a complete hair care product line created especially for people with hair like ours, naturally gray and white hair. Sensationally Silver products can be found exclusively at sensationallysilver.com.
Sensationally silver, because you are.